Let's talk about this.
Well, history proves that, unfortunately and unhappily, Jesus Christ has no advantage over Ghengis Khan. Because if you are strong enough, ruthless enough, powerful enough, evil will overcome good. Aggression will overcome moderation. So you have no choice. If you look at the world as it is today, you have to be blind not to see that the democracies led by the United States have to reassert their will to defend themselves and to oppose their enemies in time while there's still time, before the jarring gong of danger wakes them up and wakes them up too late.
Both Christians and Muslims hold a very special place for Jesus. And so Bibi here insulted about 4 billion people. But it's deeper than that, and it's worth talking about because, as I've said many times, regardless of what you believe, I do think that the teachings of Jesus Christ can be very unifying. Pretty much all Christians believe that Jesus fulfilled the prophecies of the Old Testament, but there are very different interpretations as to what that means. For the religious and political authorities in Palestine at the time of Jesus, the fulfillment of the prophecies of the Old Testament would have been on a much bigger scale, with the Messiah being the ultimate conquering king. In the New Testament, one of the things that Jesus spends a pretty significant amount of time doing is rebuking the behavior of the religious and political authorities of the past as to how they treated the prophets. Matthew 5:11-12 says, "Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." The prophets he's referring to were not killed by Rome or some other conquering empire. They were killed by Hebrew kings with support from the Hebrew people. And this is the line, whether you're Christian or Muslim, that Jesus put himself into. He was positioning himself as the ultimate martyr to be killed by Jewish political and religious authorities. And remember, Rome didn't want to kill Jesus. They did it to please them. Like the prophets before him, he was a threat to the status quo. He also talks about how the religious and political authorities like to honor the prophets, even though they treated them terribly in the past. And this is definitely something we see in this country today. Look no further than civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. to see people who were hated at the time by the authorities and celebrated now. On the flip side, Christian and Jewish fundamentalists tend to focus on the succession of kings and the establishment of earthly kingdoms. One of the biggest reasons that people leave the church is the problem of evil and the God that they see in the Old Testament. They see a leader like Joshua using God and his promise of land to take territory by force and genocide entire populations, all because they were the chosen people and others come secondary. And when you look at the state of Israel today under fundamentalists like Bibi, this is exactly how they've modeled themselves. A genocidal conquering empire that's fueled by justified anger from the Holocaust. Jesus, on the other hand, offered something very different. He didn't think people should be particularly concerned with the actions of religious and political authorities. He suggested bypassing them completely, and that's where I think we can unify and land today. The early church was essentially a bunch of communes where people shared everything. In fact, they had to share everything or there were consequences. And Jesus said, instead of pulling out your sword and dying in combat, rely on God and each other to provide what you need. Now, this advice obviously translates much differently in a democracy where we have the opportunity to create a just and equal society. But the point still stands, especially in this environment. The horror that Trump and Netanyahu are inflicting on the world is overwhelming, and it feels like there's nothing that we can do. But if we just focus on each other, maybe setting up alternative institutions, if we just said collectively, screw these guys, we're just going to take care of one another, I think that mentality can end this. I still very much believe in the message of love. And no matter what religion you are, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or otherwise, this can unify us so that we can push through that cloud of anger that's just in front of all of us right now.